bow, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all the blessings that we know we get and the ones that just go by that we don't pay attention to. Lord, I pray for all the people in this room. I thank you for them and what the difference that they're making in our community, each person serving a role, doing the best they can. Lord, I thank you for our city and our community. We're very blessed. I pray for all the needs, spoken or unspoken, for each person in this room and each person in our community. We ask that you be with us as we leave here, and we thank you for all you do for us. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. You may be seated. Our city clerk, Ms. Mona Simmons, is under the weather tonight, and our city administrator, Ms. April Russell, is filling in for, and she will have the roll call tonight.
Bunnell.
Present.
Gauntz.
Yes, ma'am.
Kirkpatrick.
Yes, ma'am.
Lowry. Here. Marion.
Yes, ma'am.
Neal.
Here.
Norris.
Here.
Trigg.
Here.
Witcher.
Here.
All are present.
All right. Thank you for being here tonight. On Thursday, in your packet, you got the agenda, and I trust that you've had a chance to look over the agenda, and I will entertain a motion that we proceed with tonight's meeting using that agenda that was sent to you last week.
Motion, Lowry.
Is there a second?
Second, Kirkpatrick.
Any discussion on the issue? All in favor of proceeding with the agenda as presented indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We're going to move forward to the agenda that was presented, the first item of which is to approve the minutes of the city council meeting that we held on the 23rd day of October, and I'll entertain a motion to enter those minutes into the record.
Motion.
By Max Marion, Councilman Marion. Is there a second?
Second, Bunnell.
Okay, so any discussion on the minutes? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, and those minutes are now officially in the record. We begin tonight with some old business. We've got some ordinances to move forward with on second reading. Rich?
This is an ordinance amending the text of the city's planning and development ordinance. This ordinance amends the City of Glasgow's Code of Ordinances, Title 11, Chapter 158, by adding a new fencing requirement to each zoning classification. The fencing requirement is the same for each classification and reads as follows. Fencing for privacy or security purposes within a zoning district shall adhere to the following. A, materials for fencing shall be restricted to materials whose intended use is for the providing of privacy and/or security. No used materials are to be utilized or repurposed as fencing, including but not limited to pallets, metal roofing, tires, barrels, etc. Paragraph B, a fence can be placed directly on a property line with the exception of the front yard property line, which must be a minimum of 10 feet from the property line or right-of-way. Except a fence may be permitted to be located on the front of the property line, provided it is no more than 3 feet in height and does not intrude into the visibility triangle found in other sections of the code. The new text amendment creates a tiny homes section previously entitled manufactured home parks. The tiny homes are defined as follows. A panel-built dwelling that is constructed as separate pieces, walls, floors, roof, that is factory-built and shipped to a site with finished walls or floor that are stacked on top of each other for transport. A tiny home, non-traditional and/or small dwelling is a single-family residential dwelling equal to or greater than 120 square feet, but less than 1,000 square feet that is modular, panel-built, mobile, manufactured, or a tiny house on wheels that may be built on a permanent chassis that is delivered to a site or constructed on site using traditional building methods with or without a permanent foundation. A new section is also added to the zoning ordinance related to short-term rentals, and that is read as follows. Section 158.380, a short-term rental is a residence which is not owner-occupied and rented or leased to occupants for a period of 30 days or less. A short-term rental shall be permitted as a conditional use within R1, R2, R3 zoning districts and is permitted within a B1, B2, B3, or OP zoning district. A short-term rental is prohibited within R4, I1, I2, and public zoned district. The requirements for a short-term rental are that no short-term rental shall allow for more than 2 occupants per bedroom. There shall only be 1 individual advertised short-term rental per dwelling unit. The short-term rental shall not be allowed any closer than 1,000 feet from one another as measured by the adjacent roadway in all residential zoning districts other than R1, which is restricted to 1 per 1,500 feet as measured by the adjacent roadway. The parking for a short-term rental shall not exceed the minimum set forth in zoning section 158-400 for dwellings, and violators of this provision will be towed at the owner's expense. This ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law.
You've heard the second reading of the ordinance. At this time, I will entertain a motion that we pass this ordinance.
Motion, Benel.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Trigg.
Second by Councilman Neal. Is there any discussion on this second reading of this ordinance? All right, this being the second reading, I'll ask the administrator for a roll call vote.
Lowry,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Benel,
Yes.
Marion,
Yes.
Trigg, Gauntz,
Yes, ma'am.
Neal,
Yes.
Witcher, Kirkpatrick.
Yes, ma'am.
Passes.
All right. Let's move on to the next ordinance. Rich, this is another second reading.
This is an ordinance that amends zoning ordinance for property located at 203 McKenna Street. It appearing that Jackie Taylor, the owner and applicant, has requested a zoning change for the property at 203 McKenna Street in the city of Glasgow from R2 medium density residential district to B2 general business district classification. A schematic drawing of the property subject to rezoning is attached as Exhibit A. A trial-type due process hearing concerning the proposed zoning change was held on August 21 of this year by the Planning and Zoning Commission, which resulted in the unanimous recommendation by the Commission that the property be rezoned from R2 to B2 classification. Copies of the findings and recommendations of the Commission have been forwarded to the Council, which are hereby adopted by the Council and attached to this ordinance as Exhibit B. Now therefore be it hereby ordained by the city as follows. Section 1, the findings and recommendations of the Commission, which are attached as Exhibit B, are approved in all respects. Section 2, the property at 203 McKenna Street in the city of Glasgow shall be rezoned from R2 to B2 classification as described in Exhibit A. Section 3, all future development of this property shall comply with the requirements of the Development Plan Ordinance adopted by the Council on December 30 of 1991. Section 4, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law.
You've heard the presentation, the second reading of this ordinance. I will entertain a motion that we approve the ordinance.
Motion, Kirkpatrick.
Is there a second?
Second, Lowry.
Any discussion on this ordinance? I'll ask the administrator for a roll call vote.
Marion,
Yes.
Trigg,
Yes.
Gauntz,
Yes, ma'am.
Neal,
Yes.
Witcher, Kirkpatrick,
Yes, ma'am.
Norris,
Yes.
Benel,
Yes.
Lowry.
Yes.
Passes.
The ordinance is approved.
This next ordinance is an ordinance that amends the Code of Ordinances Title 11 Business Regulations. That whereas the city's Code of Ordinances Title 11 Business Regulations Chapter 110 and 113 contain certain provisions related to the occupational license fees for businesses in general and fees related to transient merchants. And whereas the city's Finance Committee has met to discuss amendments to the business regulations related to the occupational license fees for businesses in general and fees related to transient merchants, and recommends that the city adopt and amend the business regulations to modify certain sections of chapters 110 and 113. Now therefore, in light of the foregoing recitals, be it hereby ordained by the city as follows. You will see in section 110.02, the only change to that section is increases the registration fee from $25 to $50. And then in section 113.01, the current definition section is deleted and a new definition section replaces it, which better defines the temporary and transient businesses and the transient merchant. Lastly, section 3 modifies section 113.07 of the code by deleting entirely the current section and replacing it with the following. Each transient merchant or business, as those terms are defined in section 113.01, prior to conducting business in the city, shall make an application for a transient merchant or a transient business permit. For the transient merchant, the fee shall be $10 per day with a minimum of 4 days, and for a transient business, the fee shall be $2.50 per day for a minimum of 4 days. But again, to be eligible as a transient business, the operation shall be for a period of less than 6 continuous uninterrupted months each year, and the transient business can employ no more than 50 persons at any one time as part of its business operations. This ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law.
You heard the second reading of this ordinance. At this point, I will entertain a motion that we pass this ordinance on second reading.
Motion, Vanel.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Norris.
Okay, is there any discussion on this ordinance as it was read? I'll ask the administrator for a roll call vote on this ordinance.
Neal,
Yes.
Witcher, Kirkpatrick, Norris,
Yes.
Benel,
Yes.
Lowry,
Yes.
Trigg, Gauntz,
Yes, ma'am.
Marion,
Yes.
passes.
Okay, the ordinance passes. We do have an ordinance on first reading to consider in new business. Rich?
Mayor, before I read this, I'll give the council just a real quick history, so if you have any questions, maybe this will answer it for you. If you're going down Columbia Avenue and you turn left on Grand Avenue before you get to what used to be New Farmers Bank, you will be going up Grand Avenue. Back several years ago, the council closed the right-hand side of 5th Street as you're going up Grand, but it did not close the left side of 5th Street. And the property owner of a property on the left-hand side who's developing that lot, I think Kevin came before, is Kevin here? Came before planning and zoning. I think the recommendation was that that be closed, and so this ordinance will close the left-hand side of 5th Street. It's not ever been used, but it was platted and dedicated as a street. So this ordinance will close that section down. So that whereas the Columbia Heights subdivision was developed and platted in 1931, a street designated as 5th Street was dedicated as a public way, but said public way as platted was never used, and instead the existing 5th Street has been dormant. See attached original plat dated August 21, 1931, Exhibit A. Whereas pursuant to KRS 82.405, all of the property owners in or abutting the unused public way designated as 5th Street, located off Grand Avenue, the original plat of which is attached as Exhibit A, have consented to the closing of said public way, subject to the provision that the property contained within the right-of-way shall revert back to the owners of the property in or abutting the public way. Whereas an affidavit pursuant to KRS 82.405(2)C has been signed by all of the property owners in or abutting the public way proposed to be closed, and those affidavits are attached collectively as Exhibits B1, 2, 3, and 4. Now therefore be it hereby ordained by the City of Glasgow as follows. Section 1, pursuant to KRS 82.405 sub 2, the following findings of fact are made. A, the property owners in or abutting the public way proposed to be closed are as follows. HD Investment LLC, CB Developments LLC, Stephen and Jennifer Bowie, and Kent and Ava Keene. Written notice of the proposed closing has been given to all of the aforesaid property owners, and all of the aforesaid property owners have given their written notarized consent to the closing ordained herein, and same are attached to this ordinance. Section 2, the aforesaid public way designated as 5th Street, located off Grand Avenue in Glasgow, is hereby ordered and declared closed without any further action, subject to the following provisions. Ownership of the property contained within said portion of the public way being closed shall revert back to the aforesaid property owners according to the law of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, which is that the real estate comprised of the closed portion shall vest to the adjacent property owners 1/2 of the area to each adjacent property owner from the property owner's boundary line abutting the public way to the center line of the closed public way for the entire distance that the property owner's property is abutting the public way. This ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law.
Well, this is the first reading of this ordinance, and I will entertain a motion that we approve this ordinance on first reading. Okay, a second by Councilman Neal. Thank you all. Any discussion on this particular ordinance as it was presented?
Mayor Royce, I had just a couple of questions. On this strip of land, are there any easements or right-of-ways to any other property owners there?
No, sir. Kevin can speak to that probably in more detail, but what it did, Councilman Bunnell, was it ran, like I said, on the right-hand side. It intersected Grand Avenue and then dead-ended down toward the back of one of the lots. So it does not cut off any access. If you go on up Grand, there's another entrance to the left where all of the houses that have been developed. So it doesn't affect anybody's access.
Kevin, you got anything else you want to add to that discussion? Okay. All right. Other questions about this ordinance on first reading that you would like to ask?
Any costs associated with the city of closing that, deeding that over?
No, sir. The property owner that requested the action has paid for the plat. There'll be a new plat recorded. They've taken care of that, and they'll take care of any deeds that are necessary for that. So there's zero cost to the city.
Thank you.
Good discussion. Any other questions or any other discussion? All right. I'll call the question. I'll ask the administrator to do a roll call vote on this ordinance.
Norris,
Yes.
Bunnell,
Yes.
Lowry,
Yes.
Trigg,
Yes.
Gauntz,
Yes, ma'am.
Marion,
Yes.
Witcher, Kirkpatrick, Neal.
Yes.
All right. The motion carries, or the ordinance carries, and then we have a resolution to deal with. Rich?
Be it hereby resolved by the City of Glasgow that April Russell, grant writer for the City of Glasgow, is authorized and directed to make application for a grant in the total amount of $500,000 for safe rooms at Weldon Park and Gorin Park, which is administered through the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. The breakdown of the grant, if received, is as follows. The federal share will be $375,000, the state share $60,000, and the local share $65,000. Be it further resolved by the city that Mayor Royce is authorized and directed to execute all documents necessary to make application for this grant.
You've heard the resolution, and I would entertain, first of all, to get it on the floor, a motion that we approve the resolution. By Councilman Neal. Is there a second?
Second, Bunnell.
Second by Councilman Bunnell. Is there any discussion on this resolution?
Question I would have, Mayor, is we have chosen these two parks. Was there a particular reason we made the choice of these two parks? And then the other question I would have would be, are we talking what size facility? I mean, what would it occupy? Where it be located? Is that something that the Parks Director has looked at? And
Yes.
how does it aesthetically fit into the other pieces in each of the parks?
Eddie was involved in that program, and of course, Kentucky Emergency Management Director Garland Gilliam was involved in that. Ms. Russell was involved in it, and one other person was involved in that. Eddie, who was that, if I recall?
The Brad office.
Okay, the Brad office was. So explain a little bit more about kind of where these are really good locations, but give everybody.
Excuse me, we chose Gorin Park and Weldon Park because it surrounds a bunch of neighborhoods. So we figured that would be the best location for those. As far as the size, I don't remember right off the top of my head. They were supposed to send that to us, but I haven't received it. My understanding, it would hold close to 100 people per shelter. As far as the location at Gorin Park, there's a plot of land across from the tennis courts, which you're probably familiar with, Terry, right there where the road kind of splits, that little triangle. We looked at that location for one of them. And then at Weldon Park, back where the old restroom currently is, that's coming down. So that spot over there is going to be an empty location for it. I don't know. No.
We can get that, though. I mean,
Yeah, we can get that for you.
And this is an item that's on the drawing board to be finished in 2024, 2025? Do we have?
Probably
a time?
2025 is the way that they looked at it.
Are we looking at other locations around the community, or is it just these two locations?
We just have those two approved at this point in time.
And this was something that was brought to us. It wasn't something that we went out and were looking for.
So is it mandatory?
I believe there's some federal funding out there. April, you can speak to that.
Yeah, there's federal funding for it, and they've built some others in Barron County. We had always said we were interested in them. They finally found the funding, so we wanted to capitalize on it.
Do we have any in Glasgow?
I don't think so.
No.
Not in the city limits. In the county, they do have some, but not within the city, and that's been something that people have asked about, and we've looked into several times. With hazard mitigation funding, you put it out there, and then they tell you if they want your project or not, and this is a project they did want. And so we went forward with it and are working on it now. It's a good 16-month project, so it'll take a while.
Is this grant money going to cover most of the cost, or is this going to be,
I think our costs, I'm trying to remember, they were $250,000 each. So, yeah, so 65 for both of them.
And
Yes, that would be for both of them. So 375 is the federal share, 60 is the state, and then 65 is the local share.
if I remember some of the discussion we had, April, that 65 can be in kind in terms of the city doing the work and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that we will use some of that, and as to what it will look like, we would like to match the new bathrooms, the new restrooms, so that they kind of keep that same look.
And then these safe rooms will be administered by the Parks and Rec Director, or who will be in charge of the?
The way I understood, EMS would be in charge of that, or emergency management.
KYEM.
Yeah. They would take care of that.
So-
Basically, anytime there was a warning of any sorts, we would guarantee that the parks would be open so that they had access to them.
Okay.
And they have a timer or something like that.
When the cowbells
doors
sound,
to
they
open.
automatically unlock. That's kind of neat, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the one down at East Barron Fire Department is the one I'm most familiar with, and it's really, really nice and well utilized too.
And these are all, bathroom facilities are located inside of these, and
No, but they will be close to bathroom
Close to.
facilities.
so what is the maintenance involved in these, I guess, is what we're,
Shouldn't be any once they're built.
It's
Just a
concrete shell,
concrete shell?
just to protect people.
And when there isn't any kind of weather warning or whatnot, they stay locked down so people can't just get into them and do any kind of damage or anything.
Well, I think it's important for us to have these as an alternative for our citizens. I truly, believe in that, and safety is what we're about in lots of different ways. I just was wondering why we decided to place them in the parks. That's, I guess, the question that I have is just the location in the parks. It's property we own, and I know we don't own a lot of property. We own some property in the city of Glasgow, but I'm just saying, if you put these safe rooms in your parks, then, you're lessening space for other programming, and you have the aesthetics, and then you have, obviously, you're going to have the upkeep as, I think, as the Parks Director, and I just think there's limitations of having them in the parks. That's my opinion.
It's not uncommon, Councilman. Like Warren County, for instance,
Okay.
they have several shelters in their parks as well. The county property, not the city, in Warren County.
I will say, Terry, that the Kentucky Emergency Management folks kind of push the parks because of ease of people getting to them, and because of, parking where they can get there and get real, in other words, it's not in the middle of a neighborhood, so it's easily accessible. KYEM was sort of pushing us to do that, even though they didn't dictate that it had to be.
So, Mayor, how does this work out? If, let's say the bells go off at 2:30 a.m., is the police department going to go and lock the park? Because
No.
I know the parks lock at 10.
Well, are you talking about the fence?
If a storm was to come up, the parks would be unlocked, whether it be the police department that did it or Parks and Rec. Somebody would go unlock the parks.
So my question on that, to follow what Marna was saying is anytime that we have, a storm or anything, then is somebody going to be there to monitor, because we don't want, people just being able to stay in the park at, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, you know what I mean?
Well,
For damage purposes is what I was,
Liability issue as well.
correct.
I would think if there's a tornado, if they won't go out and play outside, let them play outside. And I know it's untrue, but if there's a tornado like we just had, and there's people running through the park, their damage is probably gonna be less than.
Well, that's true, but what I'm getting at is who's actually unlocking the doors, and is someone going to stay there with them for when the tornado expires, where we don't just leave the parks open, if we have a tornado at 9 or 10 o'clock, and then, it's over at 11, is somebody going to be there back to lock it up where the park's not open from 11 to 7?
I would assume the police or Parks and Rec, they were out most all night during the, last storm, street department, somebody would. But didn't you say that it unlocks itself?
It does unlock itself. As far as who would man it, we haven't had those discussions just yet. Basically, they were wanting to see if they could even do something like that in the parks initially, and then we'd have those further conversations.
my thought is to use the technology that we use for unlocking the shelter itself, to use that to quickly unlock the gates at the parks to where access won't be impaired at all, and then we will have probably a call schedule that the police department and maybe a recreation department person would be dispatched to make sure that it's all buttoned up when it's over with. But we're not there yet.
I would just suggest to us, and from this body, the legislative body, I know it's an executive move on this, but the procedures be put in place, and that may be a part of the application process, but procedures be put in place to manage an event, and so that we know who is going to which facility. We assume both of them would be open simultaneously.
Right.
And then we've got people that's going to have to go to those locations. I would want someone from the city there to man that facility to make sure things are carried out properly. And then when the all clear signal is given, then people do move out of the facility. So I just think that, again, it's a good process. It's good for our citizens. It helps them. But I just want to make sure that we dot the I's and cross the T's on the procedures of it. Putting the parks, okay, there's more space there, but then the aesthetics of a concrete building. I mean, we're looking to move the tennis courts, but we've still got baseball, and we've still got other things there. How aesthetically does that look in the parks? Again?
It'll look just like another building that we have out there.
And I'm taking your word on it. I'm taking your word on that. But I would like to see to make sure that we have in this the procedures in place so that we know when that alarm sounds and those facilities are to be open, that they're going to be open and they're going to be managed. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thought, but could you get some of that from Warren County or E-Town or all the surrounding counties? I'm sure they've got a procedure that we could share out in, like I said, 16 months out, but, I mean, it's a good point, but let's find out what the other people are doing rather than recreating the wheel.
Sure.
I really think Kentucky Emergency Management probably has a standardized procedures that we can tweak for our particular needs, because they've been doing this for a while, and I feel like that now that we're on board, they will provide us with a little guidance in how to develop that, too.
And the comment was made, Mrs. Russell, that we could do an in-kind to the 65,000? Okay. Thank you.
Good discussion. I don't want it to end if somebody's got something else you've thought about.
Did you have something, Joe?
All right. Well, then I'll call the question. This will have a voice vote on first reading of this resolution. All in favor of proceeding in making the application for this, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. The motion carries. We have another resolution to review.
This is a resolution for the Kentucky League of Cities Insurance Services Compensation Grant. Be it hereby resolved by the city that April Russell, grant writer for the city of Glasgow, is authorized and directed to make application on behalf of the city for a grant in the amount of $3,000 administered through the Kentucky League of Cities Insurance Services Compensation Safety Grant, which will be used, if received, for the following purposes. A, purchase of 2 mower discharge kits for public works, that's $698. B, moving target for police department shooting range, that's $4,750. And C, certified playground inspection training for parks and recreation, which is another $500. This grant is a 50% in-kind match of $3,000. Be it further resolved that Mayor Royce is authorized and directed to execute all documents necessary to make application for the grant.
You've heard the first reading of this resolution to make application for this safety grant. I will entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
Motion.
Okay, that's from Councilman Marion. Is there a second?
Second, Norris.
Okay, all right. We have a motion and a second. We're to the point we can have some discussion. Anybody want to ask any questions about this, any further detail about this? All right. We will call the question. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Rich?
This next item is a resolution approving the lease agreement with the Lessenberry Family Limited Partnership for the Glasgow Police Department. And again, just as a quick background or history, as Chief Howie mentioned in previous presentations, since June of this year, the police department has been operating under a memorandum of understanding with Lessenberry for what I call a trial period for 4 months. That 4-month period has expired. Things have gone well, and now this resolution will formalize that relationship with a lease agreement with Lessenberry Limited Family Partnership with respect to a unit within Park Avenue Shopping Center having an address of 113 Park Avenue, Glasgow. The police department will be operating and occupying that facility for a 3-year term, and the rental payments will be $550 per month. This resolution authorizes Mayor Royce to execute the lease agreement on behalf of the city, and that lease agreement is attached as Exhibit A to the resolution.
All right. You have heard the resolution read. I will entertain a motion that we approve this resolution. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Neal. Is there a discussion on the approval of this lease agreement at this time?
In looking over the lease, and I may have not seen the wording on this, but what if we want to get out of the lease before the 3-year period? That, I'm sure, is in here, and probably I've just missed that wording on that.
Let me find it here. Councilman Bunnell, I don't see that in here. It's typically a 30-day notice, but I actually don't see that in this lease agreement.
Because I'm saying if we,
Yeah,
you know,
I understand.
the police chief, current police chief, or other administration, while we're in this 3-year period, decides that, we want to move somewhere else, are we bound by the $550 for the remaining portion of the lease, or can we exit it with a 30-day notice and be terminated from the lease?
Well, let's call on the city attorney to advise us whether we should hold off on approving this lease until we get that written into it, or do we want to approve the lease arrangement contingent upon getting a 30-day out into it?
Yeah, I think that would be fine, and I would just ask the motion approve it with the directing the city attorney to negotiate that 30-day notice provision. Yep.
All right.
I think that would be good.
Okay. All right.
I would amend the motion to approve with the stipulation that the lease agreement have the option with termination with a 30-day notice.
All right. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Norris.
Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Resolution carries. We have a municipal order to consider.
That whereas American Legal Publishing Corporation of Cincinnati, Ohio has completed its 2023 S56 supplement to our Code of Ordinances. This supplement contains all ordinances of a general nature enacted since the prior supplement. And whereas American Legal Publishing Corporation has recommended the revision or addition of certain sections to the Code of Ordinances which are based on or make reference to sections of the Kentucky Revised Statutes. Whereas the Glasgow City Council intends to accept these updated sections in accordance with the changes of the law of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Now therefore, the City of Glasgow does hereby order that the 2023 S56 supplement of the Code of Ordinances are as submitted by by American Legal Publishing Corporation of Cincinnati and attached as Exhibit A is hereby adopted by reference, so ordered by the City Council this 13th day of November 2023.
All right, you have heard the reading of the municipal order. I'll entertain a motion that we approve the order.
Motion, Lowry.
All right, is there a second?
Second, Kirkpatrick.
And is there any discussion on this particular municipal order? Okay, if not, then I'll call the question. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The municipal order has been approved. In your packet, there's just a couple of notes here that you got some municipal orders that are going to be up for consideration on the meeting on the 27th for you to look over. And there's also, for notification purposes, the executive orders that have been signed, which puts them into the standard operating procedure new policy that the Glasgow Police Department asked for and was approved at our last meeting on missing persons. So just look over those two and make sure you don't have any questions about those when we take them up for consideration. In the announcement section, I had a request to bring up to the council for a little discussion our Barron County Court Clerk, Helena Chase Birdwell, who has an announcement that she would like to make here in public as a part of this council meeting. So I will turn it over to you, Helena.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Council. Bear with me. I will try not to say too many words, but I'm going to say something that you all might be interested in. Next year on the ballot, we're just going to go over some races that will be on there, and something might be really important to some of you all. Next year is a presidential election, so you'll have the president, U.S. House of Representatives, our state senate race, state house. We'll have school boards. If you're in the county, it's District 2, 4, and 5. And Glasgow and Caverna both have, I think, a couple seats on that ballot. We'll have the Commonwealth Attorney will be on the ballot. The Circuit Court Clerk will be on there. Glasgow City Council will be on the ballot. Soil and Conservation District Supervisors, I think they have 4 seats that will be on the ballot. For you all, and then any citizens of the city that are wanting to file to run for Glasgow City Council, your deadline is January the 5th at 4 p.m., and you will file over at the Barron County Clerk's office. If you would like to go online before you come and get your application and see what the criteria are for your filing, you can go ahead and go to barron.countyclerk.us. That's our website, or just Google Barron County Clerk, and we have a link there for you on the homepage that says click here for more information or for your filing papers. So please check that out. Now, also on the ballot will be Cave City Council and Park City Council, but their filing deadline is June 4th at 4 p.m. Now, Rich and I had a discussion about this earlier today, and the reason that Cave City and Park City Council file later is because they have an ordinance in place that they waive the primary. So for Glasgow City Council, you all do not waive your primary. You are filing as a city legislative body, nonpartisan, not waiving the primary. If you're going to go online to print off your your application. So you're nonpartisan, not waiving the primary, because here in the city of Glasgow, if double plus one file for, so we'll just break it down. If 19 people are running for Glasgow City Council, then you guys will have a primary. I don't have to use all them fancy words. So the Patrick knows what I'm talking about. That will mean that you all will have a primary. So if we don't have 19, then you do not have a primary.
While we have you here, anybody have any questions that they might want to ask the clerk while we have her captive here?
Sure. And I will say, for our school board and the Soil and Conservation District Supervisors and Cave City and Park City, their deadline again is June 4th at 4 p.m. They also file in the clerk's office. If you are wanting to run for circuit clerk, you have some extra criteria you have to meet also. They file by the January deadline at the clerk's office, but our Commonwealth Attorney, if you're interested in that, you would be filing through the Secretary of State, because that's multi-county.
So you're telling me that all these requirements and all these deadlines are online?
Yes, and we have a link on our homepage if you would like to check out Barron County Clerk's website.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for coming, and
Yeah, but
certainly
if
it
you
is
all have questions, Joe's got a question. Yes, sir. Everything went pretty well. The voter turnout, I was a little disappointed, and not bad, not off too much. We had 11,947 voters come out and vote, just over 37% turnout, which, you know, that's a low, but it seemed like I didn't think it was like 37% turnout, but that's what it was. Lots of folks like the early 3-day early voting out at the UK Extension Office, and because of new voter legislation, that is something that I hope doesn't go away. So if you really like voting early during those 3 days of no excuse voting, let your legislator know, because they're the folks that can help us keep that in place. But hopefully, you know, 2024, I almost said 2020, 2024 will be our largest election, that presidential election. That's when folks come out and vote. When they don't vote for anything else, they'll come out and vote during a presidential election. So we look for a large turnout. You know, last presidential election, even during COVID, we had over 20,000 votes cast here in Barron County. So we look for that to be a big election next year. And all of you all and everybody that want to run for city council are going to be on the ballot, so I know y'all are going to bring out everybody to vote here in the city limits, right?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for coming over here and giving us a good update on that. We need these things we need to know, and appreciate you taking the time to come over here.
And if you all need anything, just give us a call over at the clerk's office. We're happy to answer your questions anytime.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Helene.
Thanks, y'all.
Appreciate you being here.
Yes.
Also, we want to call to the podium the commander of the local American Legion chapter and the chairman of our local veterans organization, Matt Mutter, who is just going to spend a moment wrapping up what has been a festive occasion while it's fresh on his mind. Matt, I'm going to give you the podium, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for accommodating me on short notice tonight. I just want to give you a quick update over the past weekend's events. The dinner was very well received. Friday night, I think there was 226 meals served. Every veteran ate free due to donations from businesses, local businesses, and local individuals. So I'm very proud of that. Plus, we had a little bit extra to spend next year. We're kind of tossing around some new ideas for next year, maybe a bigger venue. Maybe we'll talk more about that later. There were some issues come up with the Armory, nothing major, but I think it may be time to just try something new, move on to some better, newer ideas. The next day we had our parade on the square, very well attended, excellent crowd at the wall where the parade ended up at. I've got to mention our guest speaker at both events was Captain Craig Mattingly. If you're not familiar with him, he is a local guy from the Austin community, graduated from Barron County High School in '87, I think, and has been in the Navy ever since. He has attained the rank of captain and is also in line to be an admiral very soon. So that doesn't happen very often to one of our local guys from around here. So he had a big attendance there. A lot of his family members were in attendance at both events. And while he was here, he went around to many schools and different functions and different places. I'm sure a lot of you all saw him at different places. So we were really, really excited about that. But the next thing is, I want to speak about the banners real quick. The banners came down today as the Christmas decorations went up, and we are already planning some more banners after the first of the year. Probably already have enough to put 20 or 30 of them up, I would say, just from requests that have come in to me and different people. Hopefully there will be an application process that we will put into place for that. The banners will be, we're looking at probably $100 a piece. Of course, the Renaissance Committee paid for the first ones that went up, the first 16. I've already given Mr. Trigg his banner, and we will get the banners to all the right family members that they need to go to here locally. So I guess I'm opening up to any questions, concerns, anything that you saw. Some of you were present at some of these events, and I appreciate your attendance. I know it's a busy weekend, got ball games, a lot of things going on, but appreciate all your support, phone calls, texts that I've gotten from you all.
Matt, he was at Highland Ridge
Yes,
Assisted Living and spoke briefly. Mr. Gerald's was
yes,
there,
Philip.
and they presented like about 10 veterans with Kentucky Colonels
I saw that.
certificates, which is really nice.
Very nice.
It's a really nice event.
That was
Thank
one event, one of the few events I didn't make over the last couple of days, but I'm sorry I missed that one.
Matt, I think you hit a home run with the veterans flags, the banners, and I'm thankful that it's going to be ongoing.
I think it's going to be a very good project to keep going in the future, and I appreciate your help on it as well. And I got to say, I appreciate the mayor. Anytime I could call, text him anytime, he'll say, what can I do? What can I do? He'd send me one direction, he'd go the other direction, so I appreciate it, Mayor.
Got to work together. The last thing that Captain Mattingly said to me when we left after the parade up here was, he looked at me very sincere, he says, you all have a great community. He felt it. He felt everybody that was there, and
I think it was
that's
great.
worth it.
It was a great homecoming for him. He didn't even know we had the Veterans Wall. And he was born and raised here in Barron County, and that's, he's been in his military career since '87, so he's kind of lost touch, I guess you could say, over several years, but he was very pleased to come home to the welcome that he received.
Thank you very much for coming and telling us that. I'm glad you did, because it's all fresh on our minds of how exciting it was, and I know that we're just about done here, so if you can hang around for a second, somebody might have another question they want to ask you about.
I'm always open to any kind of
Will be the
concerns, whatever. Call, text.
procedure on getting these banners for other family members will be well publicized before long.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
All right,
Mayor.
thank you. Very good, exciting times. A few things in the announcements section here. We have a lot, this is a lot going on, but we do have the city leaf election continuing, and we'll have more about that as we move through that. It's always a tough job. I didn't realize this until I had the mayor, but we actually we hire extra personnel for the leaf pickup. It's not just the people at the street department doing double duty. We bring on extra people to get the leaf pickup done, and I think that's very, very impressive. Light Up Glasgow is Friday. It's 5 p.m. on the square right out here. Bring your camera, get a picture with Santa, enjoy all the festivities. A lot of good people have been working on this. This is another Renaissance function along with others, and we had a meeting today about it, and I think everybody is pumped up about what Light Up Glasgow is going to be. We have, 140 students from Barron County coming to sing, and like almost 30 from Glasgow coming to sing, and we've got the whole town is going to be out here to Light Up Glasgow. Ma'am.
Also, I didn't, sorry to interrupt,
Sorry,
but I
no.
just wanted you to make sure that you announced that the first 100 families would be getting a free ornament
Yes.
from Santa.
Yes. I didn't want to thank you for reminding me of that, because I wouldn't want to forget that, because, boy, these are really nice ornaments, too. Becky Barrick designed these ornaments.
Others did a great job.
Yes, they always do, and particularly this is going to look nice, the first 100 families. Sit down there with Santa, and Santa will have an ornament that will be something you'll remember your trip down there to Light Up Glasgow with that. Let's see, the Turkey Trot is Saturday, too, the 18th. Going to be on the square, begins at 7:15, no cost to participate, and of course, On Saturday afternoon, my notes here, hang on. Wait a minute, it says there is a cost to participate, I'm sorry.
Don't give away free turkey trot.
Okay, all right. So do you want to tell me any more about that while I'm looking for my other
The
stuff?
turkey trot.
Yeah?
The turkey trot's exciting because you can bring your little kids and do the gobbler gate, and you can go all the way up. And around town, you've seen a guy dressed up as a turkey, and Eddie chasing him around with a camera. It's been real fun.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody's pumped up about that too. But there is a cost to participate, but it's a small cost. And think about any event that's been going on for 45 years. You know it's huge. What I was going to tell you about also on Saturday, we're going to have this on the website in the morning. This is the map for downtown Sip, Shop, and Ho, Ho, Ho. It's amazing how many vendors that are going to be there, and they have had they've limited it to vendors that have Christmas decorations, homemade decorations and gifts, and it's going to be. You need to get online and check out this map because they've really gone over and above to have this on Saturday. The Sip, Shop, and Ho, Ho, Ho. We also have the Thanksgiving closing. City Hall's closed Thursday and Friday of next week. The Department of Public Works, Stormwater, Street, and Transit will also be closed. Now, the Thursday and Monday trash and recycling will be collected on Monday the 27th. And Friday 24th and Tuesday 28th, trash and recycling will be collected on Tuesday the 28th. Have it out early. To ensure it's collected. It's where what all it amounts to is they get a day off, but they work double time when they get back. So it's up to us to make sure that it's easy as possible to work double time like that. And as far as that goes, one more little thing, Hometown Christmas. So we're going to be lighting up Glasgow Friday night. The Hometown Christmas Parade is going to be December the 2nd, beginning at 6 p.m. With all that information, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Is there a second? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Y'all have a good evening, and thanks for being here.
I didn't fail, or I don't think I did.
Nope. My wife didn't even write me. She usually writes me